Hello and welcome to the second instalment of the Consonance Course. Very exciting. We made a great start last week at the commissioning acquisition level, but this week we are firmly into the editorial phase of publishing the books that we're going to look at on our list today. So let's have a look at what we're going to cover in this second instalment called Editorial. So this is the second part of the process. Like we looked at last week, we started with acquisition. This week we're doing editorial. Next week we'll have a look at the production phase, then the selling phase, and then the royalties and getting money in phase. And this is not a linear process. Oh that it was. Sometimes these overlap, sometimes these are longer or shorter than each other. And of course, we're performing these processes for multiple different products, multiple different works at once. So it's a highly complex process. But we're going to have a look at some of the key ways that Consonance can help with your editorial processes. So this is our agenda for the day, for the afternoon. We're going to be looking at metadata progress, so adding and maintaining our high quality bibliographic records. It's never high quality at the beginning of the process. This is an incremental process. As data becomes available to us, we can add it into Consonance, which in turn sends it out to lots of different people throughout the supply chain. But we're going to be looking at what we can add now in order to make it the best bibliographic metadata record that it can be. We'll be adding things such as ISBNs, marketing records, pricing we'll be looking at, and so forth. We will be looking at not just adding data to one particular record, but tracking a whole bunch of products, of works, as we go across the entirety of the business. So it's a little bit like being able to see the woods for the trees. We want to be able to manage one particular sort of level of project management by being able to look at how the detail of one work is coming along. But then we also want to be able to see that aerial view, see how everything is coming along all at once. We'll have a little bit of a look at some of the print and production file management. But this is all really part of editorial, getting everything ready to hand over to the production team, so that it can be a nice, seamless, scheduled, planned process that allows plenty of time for any eventualities to be managed. Part of that is scheduling freelancers, so we'll be managing this back and forth of editorial production. We'll also be looking at the contributor management part of the system, because whilst we focus a lot on a work and its metadata as a way to create information that people can use on the internet and in shops to understand whether they want to buy this particular product or not, it's also very useful to have a very full contributor record, which is really, part of the allure of a particular work or set of works. So we'll be looking at how to make sure that our contributors' metadata is as fulsome as possible, whilst also making sure that the record is complete enough for our colleagues to be able to make sense of the information as well. Then we'll be looking a little bit at reporting. There are many ways to get data in and out of Consonance. We're not going to look at all of them today because they'll be covered in later sessions. But today we will be looking at getting some to-do information into relevant formats, such as the iCal format, and we'll see it in a calendar view as well. So that's what we're looking at today. In a little bit more detail, let's just have a quick look at some of the things. So we'll start to record our metadata, going through the very complete, comprehensive metadata page, and this is at work level. We will be revealing a very exciting new feature in Consonance, which we're calling Grid at the moment. It's available for clients to contact us and tailor to say exactly what columns they would like, what information they would like to be able to see at this wrapped up level. So this is a bit of a preview, and we will have a look at it and start to explore some of the abilities that you're going to have to be able to look at data from across consonants. So again, diving down into the detail, but coming up to this aerial view level so that we can see the woods for the trees. So this is pretty cool to look at today. We're going to be looking at some metadata checks. This is another nice overhead view so that we can see at a glance what's the general gist of how our list is coming on. Are we all green, are we all red, or are we somewhere in between? So we'll be using our metadata checks to get a sense of, are we done yet? As I mentioned, we'll be looking at contributor information in the contact area and filling out some of the data-based fields, but also looking at the way that that information can be used for marketing. And we'll be taking our to-do information, adding it to a calendar and seeing that in our Google Calendar. So that's our agenda. On with the show. I'm going to switch over to Firefox now. And as you remember, we were in a demo account on Consonance. It's a real account, but it's for an imaginary publisher, a publisher who likes publishing cat books. And last week we set up some new works and we imported a bunch of works from a spreadsheet as well. So we have a smattering of data that we've recently visited. As we mentioned last week, you can access the list of all of those works and products through the navigation area here. But at the moment we're going to dive into one particular work, and that is going to be called Cats Throughout History, and we're going to go straight to the metadata page. Now, a quick note on navigation: you can get to different pages in a number of different ways. So I can click on this drop down here and I can get to the metadata page like that. I can use the product search to look for cats through history, search on a keyword if I can spell, and I can go to the metadata page through that way. I can go to the works page and I can look at cats throughout history and use that drop down as well. So whilst there do appear to be many links throughout the system, oftentimes they'll lead you to where you ought to be going, and oftentimes that's the same place. So we'll click on the metadata link here and we'll go over to the metadata page for cats throughout history. Now at the moment we've left it as we saw it last week, with some information that we'd imported from our import spreadsheet. But to get a sense of how things are going at the moment, how it's looking, we are going to look at the check results. So I'll come to the metadata page. I can see there's information here, but I want just a sense check of is it done? Have I got any work to do here, or is it wanting? So I'm going to click on check results, and I can see immediately that there are some problems. There's a bit missing, and you can see that these checks are at the product level. So there's a single contributor has biographical note problem, and that's applicable to the hardback, the paperback, the EPUB and the audio file at the moment. Nice thing there is that once we fix that, we get 4 checks completed in one go. None of this is going to block you from doing anything. None of this is an impediment to any data feeds going out, or for this work to continue to be worked upon. These checks are informational, but in the hope that the object of the exercise is to produce an excellent data record, this is a really useful page to sort of have a look at and think, okay, right, I do need to do my measurements. I haven't done my Onyx audiences, and I've got some work to do on subject classifications. But it's not looking bad for all of the rest of it. Work has been done, and so this is a nice snapshot to say, yes, plenty of green, and some things aren't applicable because well, in this case, this isn't an ebook. Other things aren't applicable, and I don't think we've suppressed any checks on this at the moment, but I could do that if I wanted to. I can suppress a check at the product level, at the work level, at the imprint level, or at the company level. But I'm not going to do that at the moment. It means that when you come to this page, if you've got 5,000 failed checks, really, where do you start with that? So if you're coming to this feature and you're looking at your existing data thinking, well, there's no hope, it's going to take 20 years, then you can suppress certain checks to focus in on the ones that you really care about, the ones that are closest to the money that you're going to want to fix as a team in order to sell more books, improve your data quality. So having seen that I've got some problems with biographical notes and with page counts, I'm now a bit better equipped to go back to the metadata page and know where I need to focus. So I'll selectively look at some of these regions. We're not going to be able to cover it all in one session because we've got other stuff to do as well. But if you do want to have some particular deep dives into any particular areas that you feel we're skimming over too much today, definitely drop us a line to the usual support address. And after Christmas, we're going to schedule a series of deep dive sessions, and that will be based on whatever it is that you need to know about. So, for instance, if we don't cover subject classification information enough today, or if we don't cover how to set up pricing in order to satisfy CoreSource or Apple pricing, then we're very happy to do some real focused deep dives into those sorts of areas. But for now, let's have a look. We've got our in-house work classifications up here. It's general interest. It is at the live stage, and it's going to go out in a spring-summer 2024 season. It's got a title, but there are other pieces of data that we could add if we wanted to. So the idea with this page is that we're presenting the information that you've got in hopefully a fairly accessible way. This page is keyboard accessible and works fairly well with VoiceOver as well and other accessibility tools. But as soon as you need to go into more detail and start thinking about enhancing this record, then the page becomes busier. So as we click on edit here or double click, we're now presented with a huge set of form fields. In order to make sense of what these form fields might be, I encourage you to click on the help icons, the information icons. This is where we put all of the thinking that we can think about each of these individual form fields, what they're used for, where they go, what the general sense of it is as well. You'd think that subtitle would be a fairly innocuous and conflict-free area, but there's quite a lot of chatter in the trade about whether we should use subtitles for marketing straplines or not. So we're trying to give you some links here to make your own mind up, but it's as our knowledge and expertise grows, we tend to put our information into these areas. So always check to see what exactly is an acronym. Well, here's an example that we've given for you. Alternative titles, what does that mean? Well, we're going to lay out some examples again here. Some of these help areas have a little bit more information, and we'll come across some of them in due course. When we get to the edition area, I'll show you that there's no such thing as something simple in publishing. Even something like edition, you think, well, edition, that's straightforward. No, not straightforward, and we'll look at the levels of information unlocking as we go. So one of the most important regions to get right is the region that's got the ISBN 13 in it. It's worth just dwelling on that for a moment to see how that works. So I've already added one ISBN for the audio file. Don't Google it because it's actually for a different book. This is just a demo. But you can see that by adding in an ISBN 13, Consonance is going to generate barcodes. And these barcodes are high resolution enough, they're vector graphics, so they're high resolution enough to be scanned at any distributor that I've ever come across. Some of them include the price add on there as well. So whatever you need, you can get there. So that can be quite a solace to know, well, if this is the ISBN, and I know it is because I've got one version of the truth, then this must be the barcode, and I'm going to use that with a sense of confidence. So barcodes appear when you have an ISBN 13. Currently we don't have any ISBN 13s for these other products, so I'm going to edit this region to add them in. Now, I haven't uploaded a great big long list of my ISBN 13s because this publisher doesn't exist and I can't buy them from the local ISBN agency, which in the UK is Nielsen. But that's okay. If I had uploaded these, then there would be a drop down and I would select the next one from the drop down. I know one off by heart, so I'm going to type one in: 9781905005888. Now when you type that in, you can see that it now says a drop down, create that ISBN. So you do have to click on that, and then that's created that as a, not just as a number, but as an actual thing that can be referenced. So click create, it will add itself to the field there, and then when we hit save, that's going to save, and now we're going to be able to get barcodes for that as well. So that's quite nice. There are other identifiers available. The ISBN 13 is the obvious one. We can also add ASINs from our friend there. We can include legacy IDs and in-house reference as well. And again, you think, well, what is a legacy ID? Click on the little informational link there and it'll say it's only for reference. It's only if you need to identify it to somebody who said, we need to have a completely non-standard ID, please put it in. Or if your external previous system, you might need to have a crossover period. So again, always look on the little icons there. Hit cancel and scroll down. Over on the left here, by the way, there's a menu where you can jump to other parts of the page. We're up on the identity bit at the moment. Once we can either scroll through here until we get to the format bit, or we can click on format and it'll jump you to the page. So, as you prefer, you can use the keyboard and the tab and the space bar to select that, or you can use the mouse, or you can scroll up and down, or whatever makes sense in the moment. I promised you that I'd show you how complicated editions can be. I'm going to click on that information icon next to the heading on the edition region, and this pop-up has got read more, and if I click on it, information is going to appear on the right hand side of the page, and it may include links to other places or links to other parts of Consonance. I'm not going to read this to you, you will be delighted to know, but you can see that there's always information available for you to start to really dive in. And looking at this stuff only really makes sense when you are in the moment. You have a problem in front of you, you just for that moment holding all of the context in your head. You've just read about work edition type codes, you know that you need to look at them. That is a great time to come and read information like this, because it's meaningful. It's not a great time to do it in one big go like this, looking at the whole of the metadata page. If you're trying to get your head around something like the work edition number, and what you see here is fine, goes so far but not far enough, that is the ideal time to click on the help button, raise a ticket, send us hold up a flag and say, you're going to have to explain this to me. What do I do in my particular case for this particular problem at hand? And we are very excited and happy to assist you at that time. Close the guide by clicking at the top there. Format is interesting. Ebook formats and digital book contents are interesting. You'll notice that only some of the products appear in some of the regions. So in this digital book content region, there's an audio file, there's the EPUB, but there isn't the hardback and there isn't the paperback. And that makes a lot of sense because a paperback is not a digital book. So only the fields that are relevant to those types of products will appear in this area. So for instance, a paperback doesn't have a concept of having a file size, so that's redundant there. So if you're on a page like this and you're looking around for a region that you know you've seen before on a different work, where has it gone? Then perhaps consider that this work does not have an audiobook, an EPUB, and that might be why. Never sort of scroll up and down the page feverishly searching for something that you know you've seen. Use this box at the top of the page to save yourself the bother. If I type anything into here, it's going to whittle down the page to only contain the regions that have that word in them. So audio brings back quite a few regions there. You can see this happens to be color coded with the AJ Onyx product form there. But if I look for something else like series, then that's really going to bring down the scope of this page to only series information that I'm interested in there. And the same applies for edition, that will do that, or maybe accessibility, that will bring back just the EPUB accessibility region, which by the way is a fairly new region, and it will help you communicate the information that you are required to communicate when the new legislation comes in next year at the European level to describe accessibility information. But of course it's important and great information to store anyway. So perhaps have a look at that if you haven't seen it previously and start to think about how you're going to go about adding into your workflow a way to describe accessibility. Clearing the filter, I'm going to go and look at subjects now to finish off. I'm going to look at subjects and files before we move on to other parts of this session today. So looking at subjects, we know about keywords, very important. Any metadata presentation will tell you how important they are. Possibly worth having a look at what happens when keywords go bad. If you put redundant keywords in, such as cats and history, then Constance is going to do you a favour and try and save you some valuable characters. So here it's saying, fine that you've put cats and history in, but it's already included in some of the other ones. So perhaps don't waste your keywords there. Because if we look on the extensive information here, then we're going to be able to see that Amazon are only going to give you a few characters to play with, so you may as well get efficient. So always click on the help icons. Then we have in-house subjects, which you'll use to define your own categorizations when the industry standards don't quite match with the reality of your publishing. And you can see that we've also got regions for Thema and BZAC and BIC and NER and some others. We'll look at Thema first of all. On the note of BIC, it's very, very nearly fully deprecated, a couple of months' time now. If you are adding bit codes, and if you always have added bit codes, carry on adding bit codes, because the trade will take a while to fully realise that they're not in use anymore. If you absolutely know that one of your recipients requires bit codes, then that's worth the bother then. But certainly I would think it's worth emailing your contacts and saying, can we please drop bit codes from our feeds on account of how they're very much not supported anymore. Preferring Thema codes. So let's have a look. We've got a couple of Thema codes at the moment, but I'm going to double click on here, and I just want to take you around this interface so that we can really spend our valuable and limited time when we're doing metadata choosing the information that is actually going to make a difference to sales. I really like the idea of saving time through using some of the other features of Consonance that we have, but then spending that time in areas that are going to make a difference. So let's have a look. If we put cats in, what have we got? We've already chosen cats as pets. This is not a book about teenage general interest pet care, so we can skip that one. And we've got cats, including big cats there. So that's okay, but what have we got over here on the right hand side? The interface is suggesting that an educational purpose qualifier might be useful, and also an interest qualifier. So I'll clear the filter and we'll just scroll the whole of the list to have a look to see what that means. Down at the bottom here are the qualifiers. So you have all of these codes that start with letters, and then the qualifiers start with numbers. Educational purpose qualifier suggested. Well, let's have a look. What are these? And then, you know, you can either use that filter at the top of this interface to find some keywords and spark your imagination that way, or you can traverse the tree manually like I'm doing now, and see if anything really makes sense. So it's not for language learning, it's not for international curricula. It might be for specific educational purposes, and sure enough, yeah, sure, textbook, that looks great. So we're going to satisfy our requirement there. Let's also have a look at interest qualifiers. Subject, not that, not that, not that. But we could say, well, we're not going to select that. We could say that it's for, well, I've got a 15-year-old and he loves cats, so let's go with that one for the time being. So I'm going to save that. And now that we've chosen a few more codes, you can see that now Consonance says, fine, that's present, good work. What I also want to make sure that you notice is that the codes that you have selected are listed underneath, and these are orderable. So certain recipients will want to receive your Onyx with ordered codes, which is a little odd, but when it's necessary, it's necessary. So you can sort your thema codes, your BIC and your BISAC codes using that approach there. And then we're going to save again and move on. And the same applies actually for BSAC. If we click on this, there's an area where we can filter at the top for cats and so forth. Let's do that one and that one. And ooh, cat skills. That's not quite right. And then save that. And we can add further ones. Again, you know, click on the guidance, go through to the well-maintained external sources that are available to you as well. Stay current, stay on top of new codes that are coming out, because this is one of the best ways to spend your time, is selecting the correct codes, and making the most of the feeds that are going out, that they're sensibly categorised. So we've looked at subjects. Last thing I want to show you on this page is a fairly new feature, and if you haven't come across it, you may weep a silent, happy tear for the amount of effort that it's going to save you. This is the content files area, and earlier today I have uploaded a PDF which I knew had bookmarks in it because I handcrafted the PDF using another service that we run. And sure enough, when Constance processed it, it says this file contains bookmarks, and it can take those bookmarks from the PDF that's been uploaded and turn them into a marketing text, which I think is pretty magic. So that's been added as a marketing text. If I go to marketing now, sure enough, here's our table of contents that's just been created. This is in squished up mode, which is also fairly recent. I can expand that as well, so we can see that the main description, the table of contents is there. And we've also added in a copy button as well, so you can copy that and paste it if you are having to do that into a spreadsheet or an email or something like that. So definitely avail yourself of that. That will happen automatically if your EPUB that you upload has got a structured table of contents. So that can be either an EPUB or a PDF or another structure like that. So enjoy not typing in your tables of contents. And actually, do you know what? We've had some interesting feedback from this where folk have said, oh gosh, I've added my table of contents from my file and some of the spelling is wrong. And you know what that means? It's that in the actual file that people are going to be reading, there's a typo. So it's a very round the houses way of of assessing the quality of your table of contents in your actual file. Quite good fun. Right, we are going to move on from the metadata page now, and we're going to just look back at our agenda, and we're going to have a look at some of the workflow that I want to show you, because as I promised, I want to show you the new grid feature that we've got. So we've been working very hard on adding information to our metadata page here. If I look on the check results, I won't trouble you with that, but if I were to look on the check results, then we would see that we're making good progress. But we haven't had a look at the to-dos on this work. You know, we don't quite know where we are in the process. Are we meant to be at typesetting stage? Has it been proofed? Has the contract been signed? You know, that we've been doing a great job of our metadata obligations, but are we actually making progress on the route to market? So we will have a look at the to-dos, which is under to-dos, workflow to-dos at this work level, and we can see that there's a bunch of to-dos, not too many overdues. We have got one overdue, but we've got a sense that, well, once we've sent the contract, then that's going to unblock some of these later to-dos. And we really want to, want to stay on track of this. You can also see that we've got some roles assigned to these to-dos, but not actual people in all cases. So it would be nice to make sure that everyone knows who exactly is accountable by adding some people to the roles for this particular work. But this sort of layout does make you think, gosh, well, this is, I'm going to get Cats Through History sorted out, but I know that there's another 60 products also wending their way towards publication. Gosh, I hope that that's all on track as well. And so that is why we have got this new feature. I'm on the main menu now on workflow, and I'm going to click on grid that's there. Now, you won't see this in your system yet because it's the sort of feature where you are encouraged to get in touch and tell us exactly what you want. And we've got a few clients trialling this at the moment, and they see a completely different thing on this page. They see their own word for whatever we're looking at here. It might be critical path, it might be editorial schedule, it might be production workflow. Whatever words you use in-house, this is the replacement for that, A3 printed out spreadsheet that we all rely on so much. So different things can appear on this page, and the usual way that you do it is raise a support ticket, let us know what you want to see, or let us know if this sort of thing would be a great starter for 10 and you would like to get going using this one to test it out. What we've got here is the title of the work. This is at work level, not product level. Then we've got some choices of headings here. So we know who the author is, we know who the editor is and the production manager. We've got the pub date here, which we can sort by. But the really nice thing about this page is that it's editable. So if we see something wrong on this page, rather than now having to ferret around and go and find wherever the heck pub date is stored, we can change it right here and it's going to update in line. So that can be very pleasing and a time saver. It's not just restricted to data that eventually ends up on the metadata page either. Over here we've got 3 columns. Again, optional. This particular client, this demo client, has decided that they want these columns on their grid. These pieces of information live on the contract. So if I click here, this is the revised manuscript delivery date, and I can say, oh well, it's going to be the 13th of December, and I can change that. It's there now. If I open a link in new container, then I can go to the contract for this page, and I'm going to be able to see that a little bit further down here that information has now updated. So again, this grid is great for not only being able to see the woods for the trees, but being able to change key data as you go. So we've got some date fields there. We've got some fields that just sort of print out saying, okay, this is the title. But you see here, we've got some to-dos. And so this is particularly exciting because there's a bunch of information all in one place. So let's have a look at this send cover brief for Cats of Wales. If I click on that, I'm going to get up the familiar interface that we use to interact with the information about the to-do and to change it. So what needs to get done? Design needs to send the cover brief. Who's responsible? The design controller at the moment. When is it due? Well, it could, as we discussed last week, and watch the previous one if you want a bit more of a leisurely look at this, but we can either say no due date or a fixed due date, like Christmas Day, if it has to be Christmas Day, or a relative due date relative to other dates within the system. They can be publication dates or contract dates or production handover date. So that can be quite nice, actually. You know, if you know that your production handover date is a very important fixture in the diary, and you definitely want to have 12 months notice, thank you very much, then you can control that from here. And then if this date changes in the future, the to-do will update itself and display as overdue if necessary. This may be a regular to-do. It may be a real key milestone one. I think send cover brief is okay as a regular. And we can also set up dependencies. So what needs to be done before this to-do can be worked on. So if we're sending a cover brief, then probably we would like to have confirmed that the, what would we say? Maybe the I don't know. This is just demo data, and I'm now thinking too hard. Perhaps we would want to have received the typeset or something like that. So we can save that. In fact, no, that's too silly, even for demo. So I'm going to save that, and now I can see that I've changed the date, and I've been able to update that directly from within here. So that's really nice. So any of these works can appear on this grid. There are filters at the top. You can say show me all of the works that have got a particular role allocated to them, and you can also say show me all of the works that have got a particular role fulfiller allocated. Show me works only in a particular season. Show me works within a pub month range, so from March 2023 you could say all the way up to January 2025. So it's really nice to be able to mix and match those things as well. And there's another little pleasantry. We can copy that to clipboard as well. If I just go over to Excel for a moment so that we can see Excel, then I'm going to Command and V on my Mac here, and that's going to, oh, it's worked on my computer and it's not showing on your screen there. Oh gosh, is that, I'm having Excel give me lip back, but never mind. Well, that's just pasted into Excel on my machine, but you're not seeing it, unfortunately. You'll have to try it out yourself. Coming back to our grid here, let's try and solve this problem that one of these works, Cats of the World, doesn't seem to have any to-dos present on this page. So how do we get a to-do to appear for Cats of the World so that we can come back to the grid and see it properly? So I'm going to go to Cats of the World, and I'm going to go to the to-dos area for it. And I am going to, and we can see there are no to-dos on this work. Well, that explains a thing or two. So I am going to copy some of my to-dos from another work. And this is reprising what we looked at last week, being able to add a whole bunch of to-dos all in one go from the list there. So Cats of Wales was set up okay. So I am going to copy those 19 to-dos. bish bash bosh, they all appear. And because they're set up with relative dates, the pub date for this particular work is going to inform the due dates of the to-dos. So I don't have to do anything else. I don't now have to go in and move the due dates around based on, because I know that in my head that this is going to be a later date. They're all going to work themselves out magically from the pub date or from whatever they've been set up against. So it's really nice. So let's go back to the grid and check that, yes, brilliant, Cats of the World is now included in the fun. Looks like Emma at plus Feline is on the hook for a lot of them. She seems to be the managing editor for that work. Why don't we go over to Cats of the World and have a look why Emma at snowbooks.com is going to have to do those things. So I'm going to click on Cats of the World and I'm going to look at roles. Here's roles, and we can see that on this particular work we've got an allocating editor set up, an artwork director set up, managing editor, there I am, all set up, and the production controller. So, like we said last week, when you originally set up your to-dos, you can make a role responsible, not an actual individual human person. But as time passes and as the project firms up, you can say, okay, well, there is a role on this work and it's the design controller, and now we're able to say that the person who is fulfilling that role for this work is Bob Cratchit. And so, as just like with the metadata, as information becomes available, we're able to fill it in and to enhance our data record as things become apparent. This sort of thing is also really helpful in about 18 to 24 months time, when you're all sitting around a table and you say, Cats of the World, that was the best success from last year. What did we do on it? What did we do right? And you can come back to the record and look at the dream team that worked together on this work to make such an incredible publishing splash. And you can look at the to-dos that you created at that time, and you can notice if there are any bottlenecks and what you did about them. And you can come back to the discussions that you had, the more sort of qualitative engagements that the team had with each other, that sometimes can get lost in spreadsheets and in data-y boxes. Very much would encourage you to use discussions in lieu of email for talking about decision-making points that are relevant to individual works, because it's a wonderful archive of your thought process as well as your data and your other sort of more formulaic but yet valuable IP. So very good. We have looked at grid and we can see that it's going to help us get that overview of a list at a particular point in time. I should just mention that individual clients are not restricted to just one grid. If you want to have an editorial schedule, a production schedule, a something else schedule, you can have multiple of these with the headings being appropriate and the filters being appropriate for whatever the job at hand is. So I am hoping and expecting a flurry of interested support tickets over the forthcoming few weeks, saying that you might be interested in this and you'd like to have a look. So we can immediately set you up with this exact example, using these exact to-dos at the moment, which I feel are fairly generic, fairly okay. You could have a try out of them and then refine as we go. So that's a nice little thing for the new year to look at. Another great way of seeing the woods for the trees, whilst I'm just seeing it there, is seasons. I'm going to click on seasons and we're going to see that for all of the works in the spring-summer 2024 season, we've got this sense of what's going on. Marketing need to hurry up and allocate some tiers to 16 of these works because they're wanting at the moment, but everything else is looking okay. We've got 32 overdue to-dos, so that's a call to action there if ever I saw one. We know that we've got some work fulfillment going on. That's lovely. So, you know, another really nice way just to point your eyes at some summary numbers and think, you know, what's going on there. So one of those insights, lovely segue, is to some contributor information. And I can see that 2 of the people who are involved, who are contributors to works in this season, have unspecified current residency. So let's click through and have a look to see who they may be. One of them is an imaginary person called Mary Glover. And we're going to spend some time now, if I can quickly remind us of the agenda. We're going to spend a little bit of time now looking at the people bit, managing contributors. We're going to have a look at parts of this record that are going to be particularly useful for selling the books that these people have contributed to. So let's have a look at some of the regions. The name is vitally important, of course, for manners reasons as much as anything. But being able to use a marketing name as well as a real name is quite helpful. So this person's real name, I mean, she's imaginary, but real name is Mary Glover. It may be that may be a pseudonym for someone else. So we would want to say, set to yes if this contact should be referred to using a different name. So if we set it to yes, then we can say, okay, who is Mary Glover a pseudonym for? And it might be somebody else on the list. And then you can optionally say, well, I don't want that going anywhere, or I do want it going somewhere. So try never to have workarounds in consonance. Try never to think, oh heavens, you know, I know that this person is a pseudonym, but I can't see a way to change that through this form. I'm going to have to put it in as a real person, but I'll know that it's a pseudonym. You know, hacks always generate other hacks, and before you know it, you've got an incomplete and inaccurate representation of real life within your one version of the truth. So try very hard not to search for a workaround. If there's a way of presenting data for a person or organisation that you see here, that you don't see here, then again raise a ticket and make sure that you do that. I've been showing you the wrong page for a while, so I'm going to elegantly switch back, but nothing has changed. I've just been frantically pointing my mouse at the word pseudonym whilst narrating the story of pseudonyms. So scrolling further, there's a bunch of other information that we can add for a particular person or organisation, and a lot of these are more about good data housekeeping than actually selling books. But ID numbers is a fantastic way to make the people who are contributing to your works meaningful to other computer systems. And these sorts of organisations and institutes that exist ready to join your contributor information to other people's services are just there for the taking. So if your authors, if your contributors have ORCID IDs, definitely add them into Consonance, because that's a signal for another system to know who your works are by, and to magically get the benefit of all of the metadata for those other works. Same absolutely goes for ISNIs. An ISNI is to a person as an ISBN 13 is to a product. So again, you know, think of the network effect that occurs when you say unequivocally this contributor is this particular human person. You get all of the other companies' marketing that has been done. You get the benefit of that as well. So it looks like a fairly dry field here, but I think it's magical and unlocks a great amount of sellability. So ID numbers are worth looking at. Similarly, if you are filling in the information for an organisation, you will see more ID numbers here that are only relevant to organisations, such as the DUNS number or the Ringgold ID, that sort of thing. So search them out as relevant. URLs are helpful for saying where readers where other entities throughout the supply chain can find more information. So figure out what you need to put in there and then put it in. Professional affiliations, another great way of saying this is my contributor and they are linked to such and such a university, because then you get the marketing benefit from association with the organisations and the institutions that those people are already affiliated with in real life. Tags are very useful for being able to manage your email marketing list really effectively. I mean, I've got a silly one here which says Christmas card list, but actually it's funny. We're recording this at almost Christmas time, and quite often I've had publishers say, the most authoritative list of all of our contacts is something like the Christmas card list. So let's make that formal. Let's add that to the system here, and then once a contact has been tagged as with a particular tag, clicking on that link will take you to a list of all of the contacts who are on that same list. So it's a really nice way to find groupings and similarities between different contacts within your existing list. And the final bit I'm going to look at here is marketing. So I'm going to click on marketing here, and I'm just going to talk about the biographical note at the top very briefly. You should fill this in, and it should be a generic biographical note for this person. Then for the works that they contribute to, if this is a contributor contact, you should then add in a more specific biographical note at the work level. And what that provides for is copy about that's only relevant to that particular work. So if it's by more than one contributor, you're able to say within one block of marketing text, contributor A wrote this whilst in Norfolk, contributor B contributed when they were visiting for the summer. Something lovely and focused on that particular work. But if you don't add that in, then both the Onyx record and the Onyx records and the advanced information sheets will default back to this generic one. So definitely put this in to start with, and then as I say, sort of incrementally enhance your data as it becomes available. Right, back to our agenda. We're nearly out of time, but what I do want to finally do is show you how to get your to-dos into another format. So this is all about integrations between different systems. So I'm just going to put my big face on the screen for a moment whilst I look at my calendar and check that I haven't got my actual calendar showing, which is great news. That is fine. So what we're going to do is go over to the workflow area and look at to-dos. So this is the part of the system where we're looking at all of the to-dos all in one big go. And top right, you can see that there's a button that says Get Calendar. These buttons occur throughout the system really. There's some on the user profile. There's some at the to-do level and the work level. But just for the moment, we'll click Get Calendar here so that we can see what comes up. And it says set up calendar feed to see data applications. And then you can choose what sorts of to-dos you want to appear on your calendar. So imagine that this is a calendar that you want a senior person in the editorial team to be able to look at, to get a sense of where the list is, but within an application that has a lot of other information, a lot of other data information, and the meetings that are on today and the other holidays that are occurring. So I'm just going to leave regular and milestone checked for the moment, and I'm going to copy that subscription URL to the clipboard. Then I'm going to go over to my calendar, and I am going to add a calendar. So this is Gmail or Google Calendar or whatever it's called, but this is quite a generic standard that exists throughout a lot of different applications. If you're using a calendar application, you will be able to set up a new calendar from a URL. So here in Google Calendar, you click on this button and it says from URL. Great news. So I'm going to paste in my calendar that I just got from that button over there. I'm going to click on add calendar, and then this is sending a call behind the scenes to generate that calendar. And then I'm going to go back again, hoping that I'm not going to share my whole calendar with the internet, which I'm not. And now you can see that we've got consonance to-dos in a calendar, and somehow it's just more meaningful. It just goes into your brain in like the, oh my goodness, I've got to do it on Tuesday slot, if you know what I mean. So, you know, here I am looking at to do, the anniversary review for CATS 36. It's assigned to the financial controller role. That's unfilled at the moment. Okay, no problem. If I scroll backwards in time, oh no, there aren't any backwards in time. And, you know, if this had been just a milestone export, then it's even more punchy because you get to see dotted throughout the year your obligations and the things that you really mustn't miss. So I really like that as an example of getting data into the right place for the human mind to make sense of it. Sometimes when we're looking in a spreadsheet or in forms, then it's a little difficult to really see the data. So hopefully some of the things that we've looked at today, the grid, the checks, which by the way are available at this sort of company level as well, so that's a really nice way to look at that. Also the seasons as well are going to enable you to both dive into the very necessary granular detail that we looked at on the metadata page, but also be able to come up and get a sense of progress and data quality, because I can absolutely tell you that the better your data is, the more books you'll sell. So this has been a bit of a whistle-stop tour through what Consonance can do to help you navigate that very busy editorial process. Next week we are going to look at what are we going to look at next week? I'm just going to have a look at that. We are going to look at, drum roll, I mean it's probably production, isn't it? Because editorial are going to hand over to production, and it's going to be in a timely fashion because everything has been planned so beautifully and arranged and set up, and everyone knows who's responsible for what and who's doing what. So production next week, and then a little bit of a break, and then we'll be looking at selling. When we look at selling, we'll look at advanced information sheets and catalogues and that sort of thing. So that's another great way to get data out into a format that can be reasoned with, an appropriate format for the data. So I shall look forward to showing that to you. Any feedback on any of this is gratefully received. Any thoughts for what we might want to have in a deep dive set of sessions once these sessions are done, then very, very keen to hear that. But until then, do let us know if you'd like any further insights or information about what we've looked at today. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and we'll see you next week.